Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown between two mighty competitors. On the left hand side, leading the forces of the Greenskins, we have the Black Fawn, representing DBD, up against his sister clan here, Extreme Mean Team, and the mighty warrior Von Karstein, a player I'm a big fan of. And his forces are going to be the Empire, led by, of course, the mustache-twirling Volkmar the Grim. So let's have a little look at the builds, as I'm a massive fan of the Black Fawn's build. I think it's very exciting and quite off-meta. So up in the Vanguard, we do have some Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers. These guys are fantastic due to their poison. They're really hard to catch and pin in, and they can just slowly whittle down targets as the battle goes on. Apart from that, in the front line, we have the cheap but most cheerful of lads, Orc Boys. These guys will do a decent job up against state troops in general, and they're very happy to be here, ready for a big old scrap. So what you can see on the battlefield, there's not too much going on in the Greenskin main force. We have a Night Goblin Shaman a little bit over on the right-hand side here. And he's going to be coming with some pretty useful and sneaky abilities. So he's coming in with the Night Shrouder, and a very underrated ability. I like using this with Black Orcs personally. It does supply Stalk and Unspottable to an air of effect, and of course Itchy Nuisance and Vindictive Glare as staples in the Greenskin game. But this is what I'm looking for here today. We have the Greenskin Cavtonia, a mixture of Orc Boar Boy Biggins as well as Orc Boar Boys dotted throughout. It looks like we have 5 units in fact hidden in the forest. They're going to be led by a Black Orc Big Boss, and of course encouraging them to greater feats of heroism. But we also have the basic Orc Warboss, a character I haven't seen in absolutely forever. I don't know the last replay where I had just such a generic lord on the field, but he has a really useful ability, Smash Faster. Plus 16 leadership and 24 melee attack to have air of effect for 18 seconds. That is going to turn that cavalry corps into an absolute lawnmower. He's also coming in with Potion of Strength and Opal Amulet. He, of course, is getting that immune psychology as well, boosted him to bite the Rabble Rouse. He comes with missile resistance and encourage and all the good stuff you'd expect a lord to bring to the table. Very excited to see how he fares today. Now, for the forces of the Empire, again, we have some pretty cool units. So in the front line, we have Spearmen, Sigma Sons, basic swordsmen dotted all the way along. Stuff that you pretty much expect from most Empire forces, but we have some great swords here in the centre pocket, a unit I'm a big fan of. I don't see them terribly often, but they're just such a badass idea of these elite human warriors. Hopefully we'll be getting a few more as well in Game 3 with Cathay and Kislev coming into the scene. We have Volkmar the Grim, as discussed earlier, of course, coming in with all his Grand Soulfires, Grand Shield of Faith, Grand Hammer of Sigma, Banishment, Jade Griffin, you know, the usual kind of typical stuff for Volkmar. In the centre pocket, we do have some Free Company Militia. They can fight in combat as well as shoot, as well as more spearmen guarding the flanks and the rear here. We do have a little double War Wagon combination in the front line. War Wagons, relatively competitive and good now. Good counter-skirmishing tool due to their bulk and sturdiness. And we also have some Empire Knights in the back right. And on the back left-hand side, we have double Knights of the Blazing Sun, who will certainly be looking to get those Lancers into that Greenskin Cavalry Corps. But you need to be careful. If that Orc Warboss does drop his buffs, they will get shredded. And to round out the build, we have a mighty Bright Wizard with Burning Head and Fireball, two very competitive spells. You often also see Cascading Fire Cloak, as well as a Flaming Sword of Ruin, but apart from that, those two are pretty much staples at the moment. It looks like for the most part, both forces are going to be entering towards each other in the battlefield here. Orc Boys charging forward with a gusto, but they're certainly going to want some support from their cavalry corps, which you can see is floating out now. But we do have Night Shroud upgraded on them, which is an extended duration. It lasts a disgustingly long time, and they're going to be flooding out here into the central portion of the battlefield. Of course, Night Goblin does have the Madcap Mushroom, so he might even be able to cast that twice on these bad boys. It looks like that's just what he's going to do. So this invisible cavalry floating towards Volkmar, as well as the War Wagons, trying to punish the centre of the Empire formation. And in comes the horde of Orc Boys, just crashing into the front here. They do have Smash 'em Faster as well. These War Wagons are in big trouble, and they're charging all across the battlefield, getting a really glorious charge into some great swords, as well as those Knights of the Blazing Sun, who do counter-charge down the hill. Volkmar's going to be coming in with that Grand Soulfire, as well as Banishments, though, try and clear out the Orc Boar Boys. A really good play there. Look at the huge damage he's doing. These guys are just getting absolutely shredded, and that Banishment seems to sit on them deliberately for a long time, but the war is active, and in the back lines you can see Orc Boar Biggins have engaged. Now all across the front line, the Orcs are smashing them, and they're smashing them hard, as the Empire State troops are having to retreat from the main battle line, and a big Burning Head comes in as a counter punch, really breaking up some of those Orc Boys as well as the Biggins. But that Warboss is chasing down the Volkmar, who flees begging to Sigma to protect him. But but the Black Orc Big Boss as well as the Orc War Boss are having none of it, chasing him down, doing huge damage. But this can also be a mistake. Volkmar is disgustingly tanky, one of the tankiest lords in the entire game, and because that regeneration, if you're going all in on him like this, you have to finish him off. And it looks like the Potion of Strength Warboss is just doing that, but the Knights of the Blazing Sun do dart back to try to counter-punch them where possible. In the main battle line, the force of the Empire have simply been overrun here. Empire Knights surrounded by piggies and spiders as well as boys, simply getting dragged down by the sheer weight of number. There is basically nowhere for them to escape from, and as they retreat, they're going to get pulled down from their horses and trampled into the mud. Militia as well as swordsmen getting completely broken and shattered off the field. But one thing that is going very well for the forces of the Empire is Volkmar is alive, and it looks like the War Boss, even with Opal Amulet, is getting surrounded and pinned in by a lot of these troops. Imagine a Curse of the Bad Moon right there now. That'd be some glorious stuff. Volkmar is going to trot his way over into the Orc Boar Boys, as the Knights of the Blazing Sun are struggling a little bit up against the sheer weight of number, but they are saturated in with Spearmen and the armor-piercing Greatsword, so it's not a bad situation whatsoever. However, more Orc Boys are pouring over to try and surround Volkmar and pin him in place. In the central core, we can see the majority of the Greenskin forces have started to rotate round onto this right-hand flank, crashing into the side of the Empire forces, and the Knights of the Blazing Sun slowly being dragged down by the sheer weight of infantry. Forest Goblin Spider Riders as well being used super aggressively, and a war is active. And once again, Volkmar is pinned in between a ton of cavalry as well as a very, very angry war boss. A fantastic Grand Soulfire does come down as a counter-punch, but he is getting very low, down to 1,300 health, but the Greenskins really struggling to pin him in place. They need some more of that cavalry to come in, surround him, and allow the War Boss and Black Orc Big Boss to really do some huge damage here, but he's getting so danger low, down to 1,000 health here. In the main block, though, the force of the Empire have managed to break through here. The Broken Tusk Mob getting slowly slaughtered and poked to death by these Spearmen. It looks like we are going to have a fat banishment coming in, tearing its way through a ton of Orc Boys. Sigma Sons, though, also getting punished pretty bad here. In the back lines, the Black Orc Big Boss is going toe-to-toe with a Bright Wizard. That Bright Wizard certainly doesn't want to take this engagement on. With the help of Volkmar, especially with all those buffs active, that War Boss could be in trouble, or the Black Orc Boss, sorry, but the War Boss comes to his aid, buddies for life. Now, the Empire forces have started to kind of come back into the fold. All those troops that ran away weren't chased down, and slowly we're seeing swordsmen and spearmen return into the main fight, and a huge amount of buffs and debuffs going down here. We've got Get Back here, as well as Itchy Nuisance on this huge blob of troops, and all of a sudden this Bright Wizard is in massive, massive danger, but that War Boss only has eyes for Volkmar. Sorry, Mr. Bright Wizard, but you're simply not good enough for this War Boss's attention, although saying that he has now turned to engage, but the simple surround of great swords, as well as these Knights of the Blazing Sun, are pinning in this generic lord, and it looks like the Black Orc Big Boss is nearly done as well, which is pretty scary stuff at this point. Volkmar once again down to 1,000 health, but he's going to be healing up and regenerating, of course, because of his lovely little item here, and the Night Goblin Shaman has been terrified. I do not blame him. You see an old man with flaming hammers and disgustingly awesome moustaches coming towards you, cursing you in the name of Sigma. I'm probably also turning away and running. Orc War Boss has got some buffs on him, but they've now dissipated, and he is once again surrounded by Knights of the Blazing Sun, who have been a fantastic choice here for the Empire. Lovely counter-punching on them has allowed them to trade cost-effectively up against the more numerous Orc War Boys. Looks like Spearmen are wavering, but should be able to return to the field, and it's looking quite bleak now for the force of the Greenskins. Balance power is quite heavily in favour of the Empire, but it looks like their Bright Wizard is just about spent, with the Orc War Boss with Opal Amulet holding off a load of Knights of the Blazing Sun to deal nearly a death blow to Bright Wizard, but he should be able to return, maybe get some vengeance with a Fireball. And now the Black Orc Big Boss has his normal boss has left him and abandoned him. He's popped Get Back here and trying to go toe-to-toe with Volkmar, but Volkmar is simply too tanky at this point, with Spearmen and Great Swords saturated on top. I do fear for the Black Orc Big Boss's life, especially if the War Boss over here on the left getting forced off the field, but in come the Orc War Boy Biggins, slamming home into the Knights of the Blazing Sun to protect their Liege Lord, but it is a trap, and the return of the Bright Wizard, the Revenge, lovely burning head across the line, is going to shatter the remainder of the Greenskin forces. A valiant defeat by the Black Fawn. Fantastic game, though, by both players, with some really interesting build options on both sides. Before we break them down, guys, hope you did enjoy. If you did, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up and subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. We do drop content every single day. And if you want to comment down below, feel free. I do read through them all and really do appreciate them and enjoy reading them. If you want to see your replays up on the channel, like the Black Fawn, you can simply send replays in via my Discord. There's a link in the description down below. You can also get involved in tournaments and just have a cool, chill time with a load of awesome people down in there as well. If you want to support the channel, you can also support me over on Patreon. There's a link in the description down below, or you can press that little join button if you have subscribed on YouTube and become a member of the Royal Duck Guard. But anyway, awesome stuff by both players. Let's go through the Black Fawn first. I love the idea of this build. I absolutely adore it. It's so cool going for the Orc Cavalry Charge, and I think this is a good way of doing it. Combining it with the Black Orc Big Boss, who got 1000 damage value, certainly putting in a hefty display, but also the basic generic Orc War Boss, rallying the lads, getting 2000 damage value and 6k damage dealt is pretty scary stuff. I really like his buff as well, increasing the power of his cavalry. One big mistake, though, the Black Fawn made, and this is a mistake 100 players have made before him, and 100 more will continue to do, and that is trying to snipe out Volkmar. Volkmar is disgustingly tanky, and he couldn't quite manage it. Now, if he'd managed to pull it off, drag down Volkmar that last 1000 health, which he was stuck at for so long, then of course the Greenskins are in a brilliant position. But up against Volkmar, I often find you need to kind of wipe out the rest of the build before surrounding him and beating him into submission at the death. Because we can see from the cavalry, they actually did relatively well. You can see this top three all got over 1000 damage value, which is really good work from them. The two basic lads, though, another one getting 1000, but this one struggling a little more. So good work all round by the Orc Boar Boy Biggins, as well as the basic Orc Boar Boys. These guys have been improved in recent patches, and the Orc lads themselves didn't do absolutely fantastic, but they managed to chew their way through the state troops relatively effectively. Now, for the Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers, they kind of struggled a little bit. They were used more in combat to try and surround troops, which worked in the early stages of the game, but then the Greenskins started to get a little bit ragged towards the end, with their cavalry not having the best leadership, slowly forced off by the more elite Knights of the Blazing Sun. Now, for Von Carstein MVP, certainly Mr. Volkmar the Grim. Getting 18,000 damage dealt, 3,000 damage value is pretty scary stuff, but also the big number there, 122 kills, clearing out the chaff, allowing his units to surround the Orc characters and slowly drag them down. Bright Wizard did a decent job as well, getting some really nice burning heads, and of course the Spearmen were mainly here to die, but you can see some of them managed to saturate on top of those cavalry units and really rake up that value, which is glorious stuff from them. Swordsmen, unfortunately, faring a little bit worse, but the Great Swords did a decent job as well, 1000 damage value. Again, that was because they managed to saturate on top of the cavalry, which maybe could have cycle charged a little bit more. It's easier to say in hindsight, however, as they were also dealing a lot of damage as well. Free Company Militia simply got overrun here, but the Knights of the Blazing Sun, not the most huge damage value, not even as much as the Orc Cavalry, but they were so key in intercepting the opponent, saving Volkmar the Grim and pinning in key characters, and slowly isolating the Greenskin forces. We saw the Black Orc Big Boss and War Boss getting split up, and then for their buffs cannot be stacked anymore, so it's a bit of divide and conquer there from Von Carstein, using the cavalry as almost sacrificial lambs, which is some really good play. Unfortunately, the War Wagons, this wasn't the perfect matchup for them, as they did get shut down by the fast-moving mobile Greenskins. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that. It was a really awesome battle. I was really happy to see that one and cast it. Until next time, guys, peace, and as always, stay awesome.